The Life of Shrek. Shrek. Alright, before I begin, I'd just like to point out that we did post up a community post asking if y'all would like to see us cover some Western cartoons, and y'all were very much in agreement that we should. So this is going to be one of the first of a few more in the future. If you want us to cover more Western cartoons, just let us know what to cover in the comments. We'll be doing this a couple times a month, and no, we won't be stopping anime because y'all also love the anime posts. Anyway, The Life of Shrek. Shrek, regally known as Sir Shrek, is the overall titular main protagonist of the Shrek franchise. He's Fiona's husband, Donkey and Puss's best friend, the ogre triplets' father, and the son-in-law of Queen Lillian and King Harold. He's also Rumpelstiltskin's arch-nemesis. Welcome to the Amagi. In today's video, we're going over the life of Shrek because why not? No, we're not running out of content. We just really love Shrek. And so does the internet. The internet loves Shrek. Why else? Before we begin, we publish a new video every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. The Amagi's reach stretches beyond just this channel, so if you're a fan of us, please consider subscribing to our other channels like the Amagi 2 and following us on all of our social media accounts. Help us reach our goal of passing 100,000 followers on all of our accounts by the end of the year. And with that out of the way, let's get into the video. Background. The ornery and pompous Shrek was born to an unnamed father and mother about 30 years prior to when he rescued Fiona. He lived with his parents until his 7th birthday. Although they didn't want him to go, they had to follow the ogre rules. Shrek lives in a swamp in the middle of the forest by himself. At first, he appears to like being by himself and enjoys scaring people, but never hurts them. He enjoys his own life at his home, like taking mud baths, brushing his teeth with bug paste, and farting in his pool, just like an all-star. Even though his background is unknown, it's assumed that most ogres hurt people. Although Shrek wasn't violent, yet he was still thought of as an evil, hideous ogre to some. Shrek, or as some people call it, Shrek 1. One day in the forest, a talking donkey enters Shrek's territory pursued by a group of Duloc guards. The captain of the Duloc guards orders Shrek to be arrested, but Shrek effortlessly scares them off and saves Donkey. A grateful Donkey thanks Shrek repeatedly to the latter's irritation and convinces him to spend the night outside of Shrek's house. However, more fairy tale creatures soon arrive and begin to overcrowd his swamp. Shrek demands to know why they've come and learns that Lord Farquaad had dumped them all there. Outraged, Shrek takes Donkey and goes to his castle to demand his swamp back. Upon arriving at Duloc, Shrek interrupts a tournament being held by Farquaad to determine which knight he will send to rescue Princess Fiona for him. Farquaad declares that the knight who kills Shrek will become champion, but Shrek, despite his bad reputation, easily defeats all of Farquaad's knights with the help of Donkey. When he wins, this intrigues Farquaad and he cuts a deal with Shrek. If he rescues his princess, he will give Shrek swamp back. Shrek agrees, and the duo set out on a journey to the Dragon's Keep, where Fiona is locked away in a castle guarded by a fire-breathing dragon. But first, Shrek and Donkey have to cross the only rope bridge to the castle, hanging precariously over a lake of lava. Once inside, Shrek puts on armor found on the bones of unsuccessful knights and orders Donkey to find stairs while Shrek himself searches for the dragon. Having read a storybook earlier, Shrek guesses that the princess is likely to be up the stairs in the highest room in the tallest tower. Donkey inadvertently awakens the dragon and Shrek is forced to fight it, only to be flung by its tail right through the roof of the tallest tower. While Donkey keeps the dragon occupied, Shrek meets Princess Fiona for the first time. Disguised as a knight, Shrek is mistaken by Fiona to be her Prince Charming, though Shrek is all but chivalrous and romantic. With Fiona in tow, Shrek rushes to go back and rescue Donkey. They're chased by the dragon through the castle, but narrowly escapes after Shrek cleverly traps it. Fiona insists that Shrek take his helmet off so that he may kiss her, but is dismayed by the fact that her supposed true love is actually an ogre. Shrek appears not to care and takes Fiona by force to Farquaad. As nightfall approaches, Fiona demands they stop for the night, but secludes herself in a cave for unknown reasons. That night, Shrek and Donkey bond while stargazing, and Shrek confides in Donkey that he chooses to live alone because most people, except Donkey, prefer to fear and stereotype him rather than trying to get to know him. The next day, the trio continue on to Duloc and encounter the Merry Men, where Fiona reveals her impressive martial arts skills. After the fight, Fiona notices an arrow in Shrek's butt and orders Donkey to find a blue flower with red thorns just to get rid of him. Despite some difficulty, Fiona manages to remove the arrow and they continue their journey. Throughout the rest of the trip back, Fiona warms up to Shrek and Donkey, and Shrek begins to fall in love with Fiona. After stopping to camp at an old mill, Shrek and Fiona make dinner and almost share a kiss. However, Donkey points out that the sun is setting, causing Fiona to quickly retire into the mill. When bringing her a flower that evening, Shrek overhears Fiona talking to Donkey about how no one could love an ugly monster. Shrek thinks she's talking about him, and enraged and hurt, he goes and brings Farquaad and his knights to take her to his castle. Hallelujah! As promised, Shrek gets his swamp back, and he is by himself once again. However, Shrek's still not happy, so after an intense argument, he apologizes to Donkey, with the latter convincing Shrek to get Fiona back. They take Dragon, whom Donkey started a relationship with, to Lord Farquaad's palace. Shrek crashes their wedding and confesses to Fiona that he loves her. Hurt by Shrek's coldness, Fiona primarily tells him that he's too late and prepares to kiss Farquaad. However, the sun begins to go down and Fiona transforms into an ogre too, surprising Shrek. However, Farquaad is disgusted by her now and orders her and Shrek arrested. As the guards grab them, Shrek finds himself overwhelmed but manages to summon Donkey and Dragon. They burst through the stained glass windows of the church and Dragon eats Farquaad alive. Shrek and Fiona kiss, breaking the curse but turning Fiona into a real ogre. Fiona is still unsure about herself, but Shrek, assuring Fiona, says she's still beautiful, and they get married. The story ends with Shrek and Fiona's wedding and going off in an onion carriage on their way to their honeymoon. And with this first love story ending, you can say that because of this movie, now I'm a believer. It's so corny, but I freaking love trying to make this work. Shrek 2. After returning from their ogre honeymoon, Shrek and Fiona return to their swamp to find Donkey there, who had messed the place up. Donkey tells them that he's here because his wife Dragon had been moody lately, and he didn't think they were together anymore. Shrek then proceeds to kick Donkey out so he and Fiona can be alone. Donkey quickly returns, however, asking what to do about the men outside his swamp. They've arrived to deliver a letter to Fiona from her parents, inviting her and her new husband to come to their castle in celebration. Shrek at first refuses to go because he knows from experience they will sharpen their pitchforks. Fiona thinks this is ridiculous and assures him that because they are her parents, they will love them just the way they are. Shrek still refuses, but Fiona makes him go anyway. Donkey tags along as well, and after a long, annoying carriage ride to her parents' kingdom far, far away, a grand entrance awaits them at the castle. All of the townspeople present gasp in horror at the sight of them, as Shrek expected. Fiona's mother, Queen Lillian, is surprised, but her father, King Harold, is shocked beyond belief. As Shrek and Fiona approach them, her parents, mostly Harold, quietly bicker about Fiona's appearance. Shrek is polite as he can be and tries to make jokes, but her parents only stare at him and don't laugh. At dinner, the mood is awkward, but when Lillian mentions grandchildren, Shrek chokes on a spoon, indicating the thought terrifies him. Harold finally cannot hold back his prejudice and begins to insult Shrek about him being an ogre and what he's done to his daughter. Shrek responds in kind by criticizing his parenting skills since they locked Fiona in a tower. Their fight intensifies and turns into a food fight. Fiona is humiliated by the both of them and storms off to her childhood bedroom. Shrek feels bad and goes to apologize to her, but finds her door is locked. He and Donkey push the door open to find Fiona with a fairy godmother and a room full of talking furniture. The fairy godmother explains that she wants to make them happy, but Shrek rudely dismisses her and orders Fiona to pack her bags. Fiona accuses Shrek of not trying to get along with her father, even though Shrek was, and the fact that her father started the whole fight. And Shrek says that whether or not her parents like it, he's an ogre, and that won't change. Fiona tells him to think about the changes she made for him and leaves the room, heartbroken. That night, Shrek can't sleep and looks around the room, finding Fiona's childhood diary. He's petrified to find that almost all of the pages are written and signed Mrs. Fiona Charming. Then there's a knock at the door, and Shrek unlocks the door to find Fiona's dad, Harold. Harold apologizes and tells Shrek he wants to make it up to him. He tells Shrek to meet him in the forest in the morning so they can have some father-son bonding. Shrek suspiciously agrees and leaves with Donkey the next morning. However, they're attacked by an orange cat wearing boots, Puss in Boots. Puss claws Shrek's inner thigh and Donkey attempts to kick Puss, but proves to be no match for the feline's agility and only manages to hit Shrek in the groin. However, Puss soon caves and, in panic, spills that King Harold hired him to kill Shrek. Betrayed and angry, Shrek then remembers the fairy godmother and decides to go to her cottage to make himself handsome for Fiona. During the trip, he and Puss become friends and purposely single Donkey out. At the factory, the trio pose as union workers to gain entry. However, Fairy Godmother refuses to help Shrek because, in her opinion, ogres don't live happily ever after. Disguising themselves as a caterer, Shrek, Donkey, and Puss raid her potion storage anyway, but can't find a potion called Handsome. Instead, Puss finds a potion called Happily Ever After. After Donkey inadvertently gets the workers' attention, they steal the potion and escape the factory, turning all the workers into doves. Safe in the woods, Donkey and Shrek drink the potion. Since nothing happens, they think it doesn't work or they just weren't meant to happen. Disappointed, they decide to sleep in an abandoned shed for the night as it starts to rain. In the shed, the rain made Shrek and Donkey dizzy and they pass out. When they awake the next morning, 3 young women are taking care of them who are all smitten with Shrek. Shrek discovers that during the night he transformed into a handsome human man while Donkey turned into a brilliant white stallion. After stealing new clothes for Shrek from a traveling noble and his son, they return to Far, Far Away with confidence, taking note of everyone's positive reactions towards him. When they hear Fiona scream upon arriving at the castle, Shrek runs inside but can't find her. Instead, he finds the fairy godmother, who shows her true colors. She locks Shrek in the room and tells him that if he truly loves Fiona, he'll let her go and let her be with another prince. Heartbroken, Shrek agrees and sadly travels to a bar. He then overhears the godmother, Harold, and Prince Charming discussing their plan to pass off Prince Charming as the now handsome Shrek. He then hears how the godmother made a potion that will make Fiona fall in love with the first man she kisses, which she plans to be Prince Charming. He then realizes that he can't let Fiona go and goes to get her back. Unfortunately, he's arrested before he could return to the castle and is imprisoned along with Donkey and Puss. That night, however, Pinocchio, Gingy, the 3 little pigs, the wolf, and the 3 blind mice set them free after seeing them on the magic mirror. With help from the Muffin Man, they create a giant gingerbread man named Mongo who helps them get back into the castle. Shrek and the others storm in just before Prince Charming can kiss the human Fiona. You could almost say that Fiona was holding out for a hero. A fight ensues and Prince Charming manages to kiss Fiona, but then, surprisingly, she headbutts him and she runs to Shrek. It's then revealed that Harold gave Fiona the wrong tea, which was supposed to contain the potion. Charming then tosses his mom's wand to her and she tries to zap Shrek, but Harold jumps in front of him, taking the blow, seemingly killing him and reflecting the blast towards the godmother, turning her into bubbles. Harold survives but is now a frog. It's then revealed that he was the Frog Prince, and it had been Lillian who had kissed him and turned him into a prince. He then apologizes to Shrek and Fiona and accepts their love. Shrek tells Fiona that if they want their change to be permanent, they must kiss by midnight, only seconds away. Fiona then only hugs Shrek when the clock strikes midnight, telling him that she loves him as an ogre, and that she's happy as an ogre. They change back, as well as Donkey, much to his chagrin. But then Shrek comforts him by saying, "You still look like a noble steed to me." Shrek and Fiona then kiss as the castle celebrates and ends the movie with a song and dance, so that they can all be livin' la vida loca. Shrek the Third. Shrek and Fiona take on the responsibilities as king and queen while Fiona's father Harold remains bedridden. After many overwhelming mistakes and disasters, Shrek is ready to give up and leave until a messenger tells them that the Frog King was dying. Despite Harold's confidence in Shrek being a good king, he did mention of another heir named Arthur, and left it to Shrek to do the right thing. Not wishing to rule and rather return to the swamp, Shrek, Donkey, and Puss set out to look for Arthur. Before they go, however, Fiona tells Shrek that she's pregnant. Shrek starts to have a nightmare of having too many babies later, seeing Donkey with the baby ogre's face as the nightmare continues. Shrek admits to Donkey that mostly he's afraid of being a bad parent, since ogres aren't generally known for being kind or loving. Shrek first finds Artie at his high school, where everyone was bullying him. Shrek starts to make Artie go to Far, Far Away, but Artie becomes uneasy by Puss and Donkey's bantering of the royal duties that await him. After being shipwrecked, Shrek begins to lose his patience with the boy, but in light of Donkey's advice, attempts to communicate with him in street. His attempts all fail until it's revealed that Artie's father had abandoned him, which allows Shrek to find kinship with Artie since he too had father issues with his own dad. In the morning, Shrek defeats Hook and the others sent by Charming, then with Merlin's help, returns to Far, Far Away. In order to save Artie's life, Shrek boldly insulted the boy, stating that he needed a patsy loser to fill the royal job and told him to go home, and says that maybe he's not much of a big loser as he thought he was. Shrek becomes disenchanted over hurting Artie's feelings, but keeps his sense of humor until his friends arrive to the rescue, with Artie talking the villains into reforming themselves. Artie assumes the role of king, and Shrek now feels he's capable of being a father. The last scene shows he's the proud parent of triplets, and though makes mistakes, proves to be a great dad. Shrek Forever After. The film begins just before Shrek rescues Princess Fiona in the first film. Desperate to lift their daughter's curse, King Harold and Queen Lillian meet with con artist Rumpelstiltskin, who requests to become King of Far Far Away in curry exchange. Just before the deal is contracted, the King and Queen learn that Fiona has already been rescued. In the present, a disgruntled Rumpelstiltskin wishes Shrek was never born and seeks revenge. Meanwhile, Shrek has grown tired of being a domesticated family man and celebrity among the local villagers, leading him to yearn for the days when he felt like a real ogre. It's his children's birthday party where lots of fictional characters appear. Shrek gets easily annoyed here as the three little pigs eat the children's cake up, and a little kid called Butterpats keeps wanting him to do his infamous roar. After lashing out at his family and friends during the party, Shrek storms off and meets with Rumpelstiltskin, who offers to give Shrek a day to live like a real ogre again in exchange for a day from his childhood he wouldn't remember being erased. Shrek agrees and signs the contract, and abruptly lands in a world where he's still feared by villagers. He enjoys causing mischief until he finds wanted posters for the ogress Fiona and his home deserted. He's suddenly captured by witches and taken to Rumpelstiltskin, who is now the king of Far Far Away and uses ogres for slave labor. Shrek realizes that the day Rumpelstiltskin erased was the day he was born, meaning he never existed in this world before and is unrecognized by everyone he knows. Furthermore, when the day ends, Shrek will fade away from existence. Shrek escapes Rumpelstiltskin's castle with the enslaved donkey, who, initially terrified of Shrek, sympathizes with his situation and reveals that the only way to render his contract null and void is through true love's kiss. Donkey sees some waffles and is tempted to eat them, but Shrek says no. Accidentally, Donkey dribbles on them and is cast down a hole with Shrek running after him. After speaking to many ogres who seem to live down the hole, they find Fiona, who, still cursed after escaping from the tower where she was held captive, is the leader of an ogre resistance against Rumpelstiltskin. Shrek does everything he can to gain Fiona's love, but she's too busy preparing an ambush on Rumpelstiltskin during his nightly ogre hunt. However, the ogres are caught in a trap instead of captured. Shrek insists Fiona kiss him, saying it will fix everything, but because Fiona doesn't love him, it's ineffective. Upon hearing that Rumpelstiltskin is offering anything desired by the one who captures Shrek with no strings attached, Shrek turns himself in exchange for all ogres being released. But Fiona remains in custody because she's only an ogre by night due to her curse. Shrek and Fiona are set to be fed to Dragon, but Donkey, Puss, and the ogres raid Rumpelstiltskin's castle, allowing Shrek and Fiona to subdue both Dragon and Rumpelstiltskin. As the sun rises, Shrek begins to fade from existence, but Fiona, having fallen in love with him all over again, kisses him just before he disappears completely, which nullifies the contract and restores Shrek to his world just before he originally lashed out at everyone. Shrek embraces his friends and family with newfound appreciation for everything he has, truly living happily forever after. Did you enjoy our video? Be sure to check out these other great videos from the Amagi, and make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified by our latest videos. Have y'all heard that they're making a new Shrek movie? I feel like I haven't heard that in a while. But honestly, I don't know how they'll do it if they're not going to use this cast. But here's to hoping.